Welcome back, friends. Fino here. Gudaguda is back with its newest installment, Super Goryoukaku. Or is it Super Goryoukaku? Japanese is a mysterious language. But regardless, this episode of Nobunaga's Mushroom Trip features a point ladder as its primary form of progression, meaning you'll want to pick up the shop CE whenever you can. Progress is point-gated, and you're going to find yourself grinding some of the lesser free quests as you go along. For this purpose, I'll note that both Ranmaru X and Io have damage bonuses, if you got them from previous Gudaguda events and need a baseline farmer. And there are some nice pickups along the way. You get a welfare servant, Saikamaguichi, or as she's otherwise known, Firefly. Hopefully this one's a little more resistant to backshots. She's an archer, and I'll have a servant guide for her out in the very near future, so subscribe if you want to get that hot off the presses. You unlock a permanent copy of her near the end of the event storyline, and get NP levels through a mix of epilogue quests and the shop, which is also where you'll find her servant coins. Her ascension items are in the point ladder, which also has this event's new command codes. The invincible Hajime-chan, names are tentative, gives crit damage and flat stars, a good generic option for many servants. Hosho Tsukige has star absorption and crit damage, and Drive Nobu starring Ryan Gosling gives flat stars when you attach it to a quick card. Fun fact, by the way, he's back. Who? The guy who's gonna let you Grailcast again. Nobukatsu has snuck his way back into the friend point banner, and for the uninitiated, limited 1-stars like him give a disproportionate number of servant coins, which lets you do Grailcasting with impunity. As an added bonus, the Gudaguda Experience craft essences are added to the same pool for the duration of the event, making this a very nice time to liquidate your friend point stocks. That said, if you're partial to Marianning, she makes another appearance this Christmas along with her own Experience CEs, so take your pick on that one. The only reason to consider holding back is if you intend to max out Hakuno Kishinami the second you finish Ordeal Call 3. They have a banner next October, for you planning ahead types. Another very notable feature of this event are the raid quests, which are temporarily repeatable single wave fights that are walking loot pinatas. Raids drop 3 days after the event starts, and you really want to be ready for those. They can save you a ton of farming, both inside the event and outside, so if at all possible, get the raid point gate of 300k before the third night. You know who wasn't ready? This guy! So yeah, full disclosure, I slacked and don't have much footage of the high difficulty raids, but I'll run you through them to the best of my ability. All raids drop points, QP, and class gems corresponding to the enemies in battle. There are also some miscellaneous drops that aren't guaranteed. Raids drop in waves, by the way, so expect a very hectic night. There are multiple difficulties, but I'll only talk about the highest one and just the mechanics that can impede a single turn kill. Some of the lesser fights may be more forgiving on that front. Imagawa General is a triple berserker fight capping at 700k for the main enemy. Their demonic trait and human attribute. Really just pick your best AoE attacker for this one. If you have multiple viable options, a Buster Servant will pair nicely with Koyanskaya for anti-human damage. Next enemies, the High Kings, spawn simultaneously, so look at their drop lists. I'll flash them on screen as they come up, and pick whichever gives the best drops relative to their difficulty for your account. Tokaido High King is a 700k rider with a 340k Berserker Centipede. Imagawa gets debuff immunity, and the Centipede has a 3-hit invuln and taunt. Apparently, the defense buff you see on it actually applies to Imagawa and makes him quite a bit thicker. This fight's pretty annoying, and single core, it incentivizes you to run an AoE with Invuln Pierce and Defense Ignore. That's a pretty short list, and includes such clunky servants as Alter Ego Kiara and... I think that's the only one who has all three of those baked in, and some form of class advantage. Though as is the usual with Kiara, what you gain in utility, you tend to lose in damage, so buyer beware. If you can find room to run him, Sherlock gives both on his Noble Phantasm. Failing that, you can maybe run 2 single-target attackers, one with Invuln Pierce to kill the Centipede, and someone with huge damage to take out Imagawa. You could also try and brute force the entire fight with one AoE Invuln Pierce. Tezcat, Passion Lip, Huyan Zhuo, and... Summer Skahak can attempt this route, but you may find the damage check difficult. It's a real pain in the ass. Saikaido High King is a fair bit easier. This is a 900k archer with a pair of Assassin Tengu, capping out at 200k. The Tengu have a nasty surprise that removes your most recent buff when they're struck. To get around this, either kill everything on your first NP, or sequence your least important skills to be last. There are no notable defensive mechanics otherwise, so this one's pretty simple. Pick your strongest AoE Lancer and go to town. Nankaido High King is a 750k caster with a pair of boars. One's a caster and the other's a lancer. You lose 50% charge at the start of the fight, and enemies gain both quick and arch resistances, so you're incentivized to use an AoE Buster Servant. Unfortunately, Santa Altar is a few months off from being added to the evocation pool. You know what just got added though? Fucking Cha-Cha. So if you like a better option, embrace your new, slow, low-damage leader. The Hokkaido High King is a 760k berserker with a berserker chicken and a rider wolf. Imagawa has a single hit NP resistance effect and starts with his NP fully charged, so if you whiff the kill, get ready for some pain. Overpowering him in a single attack is possible, but difficult. I suspect this battle was designed to encourage you to use Takeda Shingen in his NP seal, but you can just double tap with any 2 attackers to remove his resistance and then kill him outright. If you're an at-media-pilled speed demon, you can run a superpowered Paul Bunyan combo with the AoE version going first, followed by Super Bunyan. Otherwise, just pick whoever meets your charge and damage needs. The last raid is Hattori Takeo, a solo saber with 1.1 million health. He gets Guts too, for 200k health, and you have to contend with a big defense up. A number of servants have defense ignore, and you'll want to start looking there. Some options that come to mind are Buster Ptolemy, Berserker Kintoki, Emiya Alter, Draco, Archer Moriarty, Fujino, and Tristan. Dick Tristan, not Cursed Gas Tristan. In a pre-CL dystopia, you're stuck running a second Noble Phantasm for a guaranteed double tap. Start with Oberon, and if he's not up to the task, you may have to get creative. Maybe an Arash swap will do the trick. Did you miss the raids? Well then you're stuck doing free quests. If you're wondering why Nobu does a drive-by every fight, that's because you get a random buff in Wave 3, though she does appear in the raid too. It can either be a card type buff with some side perks, or a drop bonus. So if your run seems a little tight on damage, you'll want to make sure you don't need this buff for a clear. For my part, I'm just glad she's not giving us the Iron-Blooded Orphans treatment. The 90 Plus is a 2-1-3 caster node, brute force it with the Ultra Generalist of your choice. More interesting is the 90 Plus, which has a 1-3-1 Berserker arrangement with Raiko as the final boss. If you're looking for promising attackers, Arquaid has anti-chaotic, and Ruler Moriarty has anti-good damage. If necessary, you can run them in multi-core arrangements, as long as you have someone else deal with Wave 1. Raiko is also divine, so you can potentially run Santa Martha for buffs, which is very nice for Chenggong setups. Lastly, if you have a good Lancer Melusine, you can just ram her into all 3 waves like an animal. Lastly, we have the Challenge Quest. This pits you against Uesugi Kenshin in a 3-bar showdown. The core mechanic here requires you to manage her buff stacks. It has the class affinity icon, but she gets huge damage reduction and mental debuff immunity while she has them. This buff can be removed by offensive Noble Phantasms. On first break, she gains 2 stacks, an effect to gain meter when she's hit by NPs, and a huge attack up while she has stacks. However, she also throws you a few bones. 25% meter, increased defense, and a single stack of purge resistance. Handy stuff considering Kenshin has a preemptive purge on our Noble Phantasm. On her final break, Kenshin gains 3 stacks and a ton of buffs. Meter on hit effect, a cleanse, an unpurgeable guts that gives her 50% of her health back. She also obtains buffs that work while she has stacks. Defense up, invuln pierce, meter on her basic attacks, and a delayed stun. For your part, you get 50% meter, NP gain, defense, and purge resistance. If the fight goes long, be aware that she tracks how many times she's hit by NPs and maxes out her meter after every 4th NP. Also, she can regain stacks if you take too long after removing them. There are a few approaches to this battle. The one I went with was to bash my face into her with Summer Erise, because you cannot kill that which has no franchise. It takes a while, but Arts teams are good at generating a consistent stream of Noble Phantasms, lets you chip away at Kenshin's stack count. Another strategy is to overpower her damage reduction. By using huge damage NPs from Berserkers and Avengers, and then following them up with big crits, you can largely ignore stacks and go for the kill. This approach requires a lot of buffs and has a lot of card RNG involved, typical Buster crit woes. My kingdom for a CL. Lastly, and most cleverly, you can exploit the definition of a Noble Phantasm to cull Kenshin stacks in record time. Bazette's Froggeruk doesn't do damage on its initial activation, but each of her counterattacks is treated as a Noble Phantasm. So Kenshin will essentially destroy her own defensive layer. All you need to do is keep Bazette charged and protected. You can ride off the breakbar purge resistances to an extent, but be aware it's possible for Froggeruk to activate Kenshin's 4th NP retaliation. This means you can potentially eat 2 Shiranuis in a single turn. To protect yourself against this possibility, keep Santa Nightingale handy and swap her in once you're ready to go for the kill. Her purge resistance buff can keep you covered for multiple turns. Good luck, lads. I'll be doing a little Gudaguda myself this weekend, so keep your eyes peeled. I stream at twitch.tv/Finotaisen every weekend, and while I plan to do my Shingen rolls on Sunday, I've got some other entertainment planned for the other days. My schedule goes up on Twitter. All links in the description. Till next time.